My research is on the utilisation of digestate as a fuel pellet. In Northern Ireland we have quite a large livestock industry, and with that we produce a lot of slurry. There's a technology called anaerobic digestion which we use to create biogas from that slurry, and it's combines the slurry with energy crops, and you produce biogas, which is a mixture of methane and CO2. And you also get a leftover digestate, so that's the liquid component that's left over after the anaerobic digestion process. My project is looking at utilising this digestate through mechanical separation to take out the solids, and then using those solids to produce a fuel pellet which can be used in combustion. So the slurry is delivered to the anaerobic digester. It's pumped in. The digester that we have takes around 20 cubic meters per day, and then out the other side we get 20 cubic meters of digestate. So it's a liquid material of approximately 6% dry matter. We then put that digestate through a mechanical separator, so that can either be a screw press or a decanting centrifuge, to dewater the digestate. So that gives us a solid fraction of approximately 25% dry matter, which we can then dry out and press into a pellet, and then that pellet can be utilised. Yeah, so it's a small-scale 50 kilowatt rated multi-fuel boiler, so it's typically be found in domestic heating. The pellets are fed to the boiler, and I've measured the emissions that are produced during combustion of the pellets. I've then compared that to the emissions produced using standard wood pellets that would be used domestically for heat production. As expected, the emissions from the digestate, particularly the NOx emissions, are much higher than what you would see with wood pellets. So NOx is nitrous oxides, so they are a concern for the environment. But it was expected that the nitrous oxides produced in their combustion would be higher than what we see with wood. As part of my experiments, I've carried out co-firing trials, mixing digestate pellets with commercially available wood pellets to see if the emissions produced could be brought down to a more acceptable level. As part of my research, I've explored pyrolysis as an alternative end use for these fuel pellets that I've produced. I've also provided some of the pellets to another Bryden Centre student based in Ulster University, so that he can investigate the gasification potential for these pellets. So with the growing anaerobic digestion industry in Northern Ireland and across the UK and Europe, we're producing more digestate that we need to find a use for. As is standard, the digestate would be spread as an agricultural fertiliser, so on fields for grass growth, just as a fertiliser. But this can run into issues with water quality because the digestate has quite a high phosphorus content, and if you get that running down into your waterways, you can get eutrophication. With the production of digestate, we need to find a use for digestate, as spreading it on fields as a fertiliser, particularly in areas surrounding anaerobic digesters, isn't the best use for the digestate, as these lands will typically have very high nutrient content anyway, coming from either the dairy farms or the pig farms, and the slurry that is spread from those. This utilisation of digestate as a fuel helps to remove particularly phosphorus from farms in a way that prevents the runoff into waterways. But the production of a fuel also can lead to the displacement of fossil fuels when providing heat and potentially electricity. The pellets could potentially be used in power generation to help displace fossil fuels in plants that are currently in operation in the UK and Ireland. My research tied in with one of the CASE projects looking at biochar. So CASE is the Centre for Advanced Sustainable Energy based in QUB. And as part of that project, I went to a company called R&S Biomass, who have a pyrolysis unit Fed the pellets to this pyrolysis unit and measured the gas emissions produced, which I could then compare to the combustion emissions recorded here in AFBI. As part of the case project, I analysed the data, did a comparison of pyrolysis and combustion, and presented that to the key stakeholders of that project. As part of my project, I carried out an economic analysis of fuel pellet production from anaerobic digestate. So I found that it is economically viable to produce fuel pellets from digestate. I also found that the emissions produced during combustion of the pellets were higher than the limits imposed by EU legislation for NOx and particulate matter. I think anaerobic digestion operators would be interested in the research, as it shows that there is a potential avenue for the valorization of this digestate, because at the minute there isn't really a use for it other than as a fertilizer, as an organic fertilizer. This research shows that there is some potential for it to be used for other things, whether that's as a fuel for combustion or from pyrolysis or other thermal technologies such as gasification. After completing my project in the Bryden Centre, I've moved on to take a role in AFBI, and part of my responsibilities will be to take further the research into the pyrolysis of digestate pellets from the mechanical separation process. I think the Bryden Centre has been very useful, especially with the likes of the summer schools that they've put together. It's given me the opportunity to meet other students carrying out research in different but related fields and to see their views on my work. I can also get an insight into the work that they're doing. I think it's quite useful to have that sort of community. I think the Bryden Centre was useful because it introduced me to experts in my area, and it allowed me to collaborate with different individuals. The skills and the knowledge that I obtained during my PhD will assist me in my career going forward, and particularly in the job that I'm currently employed in.